Creating batch declarations. In this video, we will show you how to create a batch declaration. In order to produce a batch declaration, you must have a valid monthly attestation available. You will first need to locate the Batch Declarations tab on the left-hand side of your screen. Here, you will find an overview of all the batch declarations created. You can search for specific batch declarations, either by their PO/tracking number, batch numbers, or delivery date in the top bar. Batch declarations could be issued once the goods are selected for export at the storage depot. Please note that failure to provide a batch declaration or providing an inaccurate batch declaration will result in products being ineligible for export. It will also be considered a major non-compliance with the scheme's conditions, which may result in removal from the JEFs. For more information, please review the JEF's guidance document. Let's create a batch declaration. On the Batch Declaration tab, you will see a New button. This is where you will create your batch declaration. First, you will need to choose your delivery date to the export depot. Then, you will need to input your invoice number or purchase order number or delivery number that your retailer has provided for the order. Finally, you will need to go to Select Product Attestations. Here, you will see the produced and signed monthly attestations. As you can see, you will have the option to search for your monthly attestation by product name, code, EAN, or Support Health Attestation number. For this example, we will select a composite monthly attestation and a dairy monthly attestation. If you, however, forgot to add an attestation or want to remove one, you can go back into the Change Selection option and make the necessary adjustments. Before continuing to the next step, please ensure all details inputted are correct. The next part of the batch declaration stage is inputting the batch-specific details. For example, the first product is our composite product. Here, you will begin to fill out the batch numbers. You can choose from a single batch number or you can add a batch range. When adding a batch range, the tool will automatically detect batch ranges for any dates, Julian codes, or numerical numbers. But in the case it is not detected by our system, there is a custom option which will appear and you can enter the start and end batch number manually. This custom option will also appear for any numbers that appear to have the incorrect format. There will be an option called Not the Correct Format. Add Custom Range instead, and this will override the detected range. Let's see some examples of the different formats. As you can see, I have entered the number 111 that has been detected as Julian format, and I can enter the first batch number and last batch number. For it to detect the numerical format, I will type in any number such as 1234. For any date batch numbers, I will select the 27th of May 2026 and the date format will appear. For custom ranges, I will type in anything that doesn't have a designated format, such as B11, and the custom option will appear. One thing to note with the custom option, once you fill in the first and last batch number, after you confirm and see the batch numbers presented, you can type any additional batches you need straight into the box and the Create option will add any extra batch numbers. Then you will input the number of units and you can see the total net and gross weight to the left. This is calculated by the weights inputted on the product details and the number of units you have just selected. The next part to complete is selecting the actual approval numbers of the establishments associated with these batches, as stated in the monthly attestation. If you have more than one establishment selected on the certificate information form for certain fields, then a drop-down list will appear here for you to select the establishments relevant to this specific batch. However, different certificate numbers will require different actual establishments. For example, a composite product with meat and dairy, you will have the options to select the actual approval numbers for each commodity type. But if a Fishery 8361 attestation is selected, then it will only ask for the Fishery actual approval numbers. However, some certificate numbers may not require you to select any actual establishments on the batch declaration. The final field to complete is the date of production. You can choose from a single date or a date range. Please note the date or dates selected will need to be within the valid dates from the monthly attestation. This can be found at the top of the page. You cannot input a production date outside the valid from and until dates of the monthly attestation. Next, you can see that an avian influenza check appears. These checks appear on batch declarations for any monthly attestation that contains poultry or egg products and has come from Great Britain or Northern Ireland. These checks are required to ensure any egg or poultry that originates from these areas are safe from any outbreaks. For this specific check, we will need to fill out the details for the slaughterhouse of the poultry, then the manufacturing plant, and then the farm in which the poultry was produced. These will all need the name of the establishment, which sometimes is pre-filled out if it appears on the form, the postcode of the establishment, and the key date. In this example, the composite has poultry, meat and dairy, so the avian influenza check is necessary for the poultry meat. If multiple establishments have been selected on the form, you will have the option on the avian influenza check to delete the ones that do not apply to this batch. As some of the information is pre-filled out, we will just go ahead and add anything that is missing. Now it is all done, we can go ahead and click Complete. We will wait a moment for the check to be produced. When this is completed, you will be able to see the avian influenza report and if this passes. If it does pass, and the establishments are not found to be in a restricted zone, it will allow you to continue with the batch declaration. You can also download the PDF with the past avian influenza report. However, if one or more establishment is found to be in a restricted zone, then the check will fail and you will need to speak to your retailer on the next steps, as you will not be able to complete an export for this batch due to the risks of avian influenza. After completing the fields on the batch declaration, you can also view the health attestation. This is a preview of the appendix, which will show the selections made on the form. This is here so it can be reviewed before signing. We will now complete the same for the dairy attestation. As this does not include poultry or egg, the avian influenza check is not required. When all information is completed, you can go to the next stage where you sign the batch declaration. This has the same signing process as the monthly attestations. Here, you can review your document and the inputted information. If everything is correct, you can sign with your signature and submit your batch declaration. After the declaration is completed, you can view the document or you can return back to the Batch Declaration tab, where you will find your newly created batch declaration at the top. When you click on it, you can see the details of the batch declaration, as well as details of the products and their monthly attestations. Now that a batch declaration has been completed, it is ready for export and can now be added to a consignment by a certifying officer.